Okay, thank you. And now I yield myself, Mr. Chair, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment is very straightforward. It would simply allow the price of the federal duck stamp to be changed by the rate of inflation. Inflation is something that each and every one of us cannot avoid. Just as inflation decreases the value of a dollar for all Americans over time, it also steadily decreases the real value of a duck stamp. And that's very unfortunate because the duck stamp is a highly effective conservation program. The revenue from the federal duck stamp that all hunters must buy each year as a permit to hunt waterfowl is used to preserve wetlands and maintain a sustainable population for hunters and bird watchers alike. Moreover, the preservation of wetland habitat from the duck stamp, in conjunction with the National Wildlife Refuge System, has reversed, and I indicate reversed, the decline in waterfowl populations across this country. And also not insignificant co-benefits are that these wetlands buffer our communities from flooding, saving billions of dollars in damages, and they help filter water and recharge, Mr. Chair, aquifers that are vital to our groundwater supplies. The duck stamp works. 98 cents of every dollar spent on a duck stamp goes back to preserving wildlife habitat. To date, more than $800 million from duck stamp sales have been spent on the preservation of over 6 million acres of habitat. The duck stamp is a true user's fee where all the funds are spent to benefit the fee payer. I hope this is an amendment that the chairman can support as a common sense update to address the reality of inflation that inevitably will erode the ability of the duck stamp and the National Wildlife Refuge System to continue this highly successful conservation program. Thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time is reserved. For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I rise to claim time in opposition.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly agree with the gentleman from California that the duck stamp program is a great program. It does a tremendous amount of good. We all know the wetlands that are preserved with that. We all know it's a great opportunity for the hunting community, the conservation community to come together. As you know, last year, the duck stamp fee was increased for the first time in 24 years from $15 to $25. I myself am an avid duck hunter. I buy multiple duck stamps each year because I firmly believe in the program. The increase last year, we believe, will yield about $119 million over 10 years. But we also know, looking historically, that when you put these increases in fees in the first year, for the first couple of years, the revenue drops because people that would buy them without the need don't do that, and then they come back to actually purchasing that. So we understand that, and that's why we've asked the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to look specifically at how the implementation of this fee is going to play out, how the costs associated with the program are, so we can understand how to best manage this, as you said, to get the most dollars to wetlands conservation. With the idea of now going to an inflationary factor right on the heels of a $10 increase, without getting from the Fish and Wildlife what the impacts are going to be so we can best manage this to maximize the dollars, I think is premature. And I serve as a member of the Migratory Bird Conservation Commission, and I still believe that the responsibility for any type of increases should still be on the backs of all members of Congress, not just the 4 that are on the Migratory Bird Conservation Commission. So I applaud the gentleman's effort to create the attention to the duck stamp program. We all understand the good it does, but I would argue that this inflationary increase measure is premature, especially in the face of an increase, a $10 increase last year. And therefore, with that, Mr. Chairman, I would oppose this amendment and reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves his time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Chair, how much time do I have remaining?
Gentleman from California has 2.5 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it's unfortunate that we can't come together today to support such a simple fix that to a high, my Mr. Whitman has pointed out, such a highly successful program. I think the operative word that you've said is that it's premature at this point, not that you really oppose protecting the ability to protect our waterfowl populations, to keep them vibrant and make sure that duck hunters have ducks to hunt. And I think we all agree upon that. I also just want to say that the one issue is just to make clear that we're not talking about automatically increasing inflation. All we're saying is that when inflation does come, which will erode this program, that there's a process in place that the Secretary of the Interior will make a recommendation to the Migratory Bird Conservation Commission. That commission has to support it. At most, it would have been a 35-cent increase. But I hear what you're saying about that, and if you will work with me as we go forward to see when is the best time that we can work on this, I will ask to withdraw this amendment. Can I get a commitment that we'll work together?
I would ask the gentleman to yield.
I yield back to you.
Yes. I tell the gentleman from California that we will indeed work with you in looking at the future of the duck stamp program, making sure that it is managed in the proper way, making sure that it indeed is getting dollars to where they need to go, and that is to preserve those critical wetlands.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I thank you, and with that, I will ask for unanimous consent to withdraw my amendment.
Without objection, the amendment offered by the gentleman from California is withdrawn.
And I thank my opponent.